From a character it takes 2 puppeteers to operate, 1 off-camera actor to voice, and cutting-edge state-of-the-art special effects. This is the Daniel Natal Show. The census data has just been released, and a question naturally arises. If Democrat policies are so popular, why are people fleeing blue states in record numbers to escape these very policies? Pew Research has a handy map of states with increasing population and states with decreasing population. Ironically, the colors correspond with Republican and Democratic designations, except in this case, blue means states with a shrinking population, and red means states that are attracting new residents. As you can see here, liberal mainstay California is hemorrhaging citizens, as is Illinois, and Pennsylvania, and New York, and Vermont. Bloomberg has a similar map, as you can see here. The knee-jerk reaction will be to blame COVID for this, but as the article states, New York's population decline has been building up before COVID, said Justin Hollander, a professor of urban and environmental policy and planning at Tufts University in Massachusetts. It will certainly accelerate as preferences for lower-density environments drive populations. The shrinking of New York would be significantly faster without international arrivals. Last year, almost 60,000 cross-border migrants moved there. Only Miami had more, while 200,000 residents left. Los Angeles and Chicago were among other cities to see daily departures in triple digits last year. Both have been losing population since 2017. In the last election, we were told that Joe Biden became president because the country was clamoring for his policies. If so, why are so many people leaving the states that have similar policies to his? If people can be said to vote with their feet, this is more of an accurate indication than voting adjudicated by Dominion voting machines. Speaking of Dominion voting machines, one wag made the joke that YouTube must be allowing Dominion to count the upvotes and downvotes on Joe Biden's videos, which also suggests that he doesn't enjoy the popularity that the media insists he does. See videos related to the Joe Biden administration on here that have far larger downvote counts than upvote counts, as well as minuscule numbers of viewers overall. This is true for all Biden videos and live streams, so YouTube has started blocking downvotes or erasing them altogether to maintain the image of a popular candidate, who apparently no one wants to watch or listen to, and whose inauguration had no fans. Only soldiers in what looks like a city taken over by a military coup. Which brings us to our second story. According to Summit News, at least 5,000 National Guards will remain in D.C. until the second impeachment trial of Donald Trump is completed, a process which won't be concluded for at least 6 weeks. President Joe Biden, have you declared martial law? Because this is what it's starting to look and feel like. Let our troops get back to their families, Gabbard tweeted. During an appearance on Fox News, Gabbard was asked if it was justified to have so many troops guard the Capitol building, given that there was absolutely no unrest during or after Biden's inauguration. While asserting that troops had been mistreated after they were made to sleep on cement floors, the former Congresswoman said that the 25,000 troops used to occupy the Capitol was a massive overreaction given there was no evidence of an imminent attack. This last part is a reference to Joe Biden making the troops sleep on the cement floors of a parking structure, even though Washington, D.C. was loaded up with empty hotel rooms. The whole country is due to COVID. 1 billion units were lying empty, and the new regime had the soldiers sleeping on a cement floor. These were the same soldiers who sadly were forced to attend Biden's inaugural ceremony and stood in as proxies for the absent crowds of the most popular president in American history.
It's eerie, you know? It's the first time Biden got thousands of people to his event, but they're all National Guardsmen who are forced to be here. There is no security threat down here. It's just a lie. And I think they brought in these 25,000 troops because Biden couldn't get enough people to his inauguration, and it's a cover. It's very sad. I was going to come on here and try to be funny, but I'm actually sad.
Of course, people all over the world are noticing similarities between the Washington lockdown on the pretext of MAGA protesters and the Reichstag fire in Germany in 1933. Using a staged event as a pretext, Hitler passed sweeping new laws to lock down Germany, principal among which was the Enabling Act. Aside from transgenders in the military, Biden has said that his signature piece of legislation will be a sort of American Enabling Act to create a new czar to head up a permanent new layer of the bureaucracy to go after a nation of deplorables. According to even people on the left, after last week's violent demonstration at the U.S. Capitol, Joe Biden is committed to passing new laws targeting domestic terrorism. But let's be clear. While he says the laws will help fight the far right, they will eventually be used to target the working class and the left. There will, of course, be a geopolitical fallout from this. The world is watching. And they're moved by the impression that the United States is no longer under rule of law, that the people who just seized power aren't following the rules or even keeping promises to their own people. So how can this group be trusted to keep agreements with foreign businesses and foreign governments? The geopolitical ramifications of a rogue U.S. government seized by deep state elements threatens the global American empire as former allies look on in astonishment at what's going on in America. Contrary to popular belief, America does not enjoy global hegemony based on force, but based on the trust it has among its allies. This is the theme of a book by Thomas Madden called Empires of Trust. In it, he compares the Roman Empire to the United States and demonstrates how they both acquired their dominance not by force, but by gaining the trust of foreign kingdoms and nations. Cicero famously said, "By defending our allies, our people have gained the whole world." Madden writes, "Even at its peak, Rome had no more than about 200,000 men under arms across its empire. That was far too few to hold down an empire stretching from Scotland to the Persian Gulf. The United States has approximately 1.5 million troops, which is likewise far too few to dominate a world of 6.5 billion people should the world not wish it. Yet both powers had and have sufficient military power to respond to numerous local threats or even several major threats to security among their allies. That is all that is needed. That and trust. For without trust, everything else falls apart. Without trust, other powers will arm themselves, leading inevitably to insecurity, war, and collapse." According to journalist Daniel List, the election we just saw would be like the 1984 election where Reagan was running for a second term, and if the deep state had told everyone that instead of sustaining a humiliating defeat, Mondale had won. The world no longer trusts America's elections, or the people who have now, through unprecedented means and police state measures, seized power. The cabal who cheered their brilliance in installing their chosen surrogate have made one small miscalculation: the loss of trust they've engendered not just among the American people, but among America's allies all around the world, who are now backing away and reassessing their commitment to a group of people who have no commitment to the rule of law. Buckle up. The geopolitical ramifications of what just happened are only now coming into focus. The elites stink. They hate it when we push their buttons. Help us to push their buttons by pushing our buttons, the like and subscribe buttons. Also, don't forget about thenewamerican.com. Think of the magazine less as a newspaper than as a newspaper. You know, like the Greek nous, knowledge. Note to self, multilingual Greek puns don't work.